In this session, we are going to see a demonstration of transactional data in SAP. So here we are in the main menu. What we are going to see first are going to be material movements. We can go directly to a transaction if we know the transaction code. In this way, in this way, we are going to go to the material list MB51, where we can see different material movements, a list of material movements. So we go to this transaction. Here we see there are some data that have been populated because they were used in previous sessions, and we are going to search for all material movements that have been made in the plant 1000. This normally when we have worked for a while in SAP, there will be so much that the system is going to spend a lot of time, and even sometimes we can get an error. So we might need to restrict our query for getting only those movements in last month or in last 2 months or whatever. Or maybe restricting by customer, vendor. There are different ways of making the search faster. But we're going to run it in this way, and we will wait for the result. So here we get a list of movements. We see here an important number, it is the material movement, because this is going to tell us what kind of movement is each one. And this is the material document that is going to identify each material movement. For instance, 101 is an entry. It can be an entry from a purchase order or from a production order. We see more. 102 is a cancellation of 101. And we have, you see, for each material, these are the material description. We can have different movements, different movement types. So this is the complete list. Let's now see an individual movement. For instance, let's imagine that we go to this one, that is 601. 601 is a shipment to a customer. So if we double click in the material document, we are going to see the material movement. That is one of the most common transactional data. In this case, as we see, this is the material document with this code, the material movement. This is the date in which it was created and the date in which it was posted. Here we see that this is the material description, and what is this is, we can see it is a 601, so this is a shipment of 2 units of this material, oxygen cylinders, with this code and this description. Here we see the quantity, it is the same that we see here, where we see the plant, a 1000 plant, the store location from which it was shipped, and some additional information that it might be required to warehouse. The customer to whom it was sent, and the account. This is going to be updated automatically when we enter the shipment, but this is the account to where it is posted. This information we see in the bottom is the same that we see in this one. If we had more materials in this material document, we can have more lines, and we could see the detail of each of one just moving through the different lines. So let's now see the accounting movements associated to this movement. So if we go to doc info, sorry, and if we press F5 documents, we're going to see the financial postings attached to these movements. Here we see we have an accounting document with this document number, and if we double click, we are going to see the detail of it. As we say, this accounting document has been created automatically. The system is configured to know exactly to which accounts it must post the different quantities. So in this case, it is making a movement from this account, that is an inventory account, the raw material, to this account that is an inventory change account. So this is the moving for an amount value of 200 euros. This is the header of the movement with the date, the reference in case there is a reference, and so on. If we go back, we see that we have also a controlling document. If we double click it, it has been also generated automatically based in the configuration, and here we can see that it is this kind of document that it was assigned to this object, that it should be a cost center or whatever we want to use for posting this cost. So these are transactional data, in this case a material movement, and some other transactional data that it was generated automatically when we create it. We can also see directly these documents. For instance, we can copy this document number just to use it now in the transaction for seeing the account movements. Just making Ctrl Y, we can select this cell, and Ctrl plus C, we can copy it. So now if we go back to the menu, and if we go to the accounting menu, financial account, general ledgers, document, because this is a document, display. Here we can enter the document number, the company code, we know it is the 1000, and the fiscal year in where we are. So here what we are going to see is exactly the same that we saw when assessing from the material movement. So these are different transactional data, but this one has been generated automatically when we did the shipment to the customer from our inventory, from our warehouse. So let's see now some purchase orders. For that we can go to the transaction ME2L, and here we can enter the purchasing organization 1000 and the plant 1000. As we have already said, it can take a lot of time when we access to transactional data with so few selection parameters, but we are going to run it to see all the information we can get. Here we see the different purchase orders that have been created in this plant. We go up, here we have the type, the purchase order type. In a normal purchase order has the type MB, but we can create new order types in each implementation. So we can use the standard ones as this one, but we can create new ones with different configuration, so they can have different steps or they can be managed in a different way. Here we see this is the shortage of the material that is asked for to the vendor and the date, and if we double click in the document number, in the purchase order number, we are going to see the details of this purchase order. Here we see we have a header. Here we have the purchase order document, the purchase order document number. Here we have the vendor, so we have, this is a purchase order to this vendor, and here we have the date where it has been created. important, we have the structural organization, purchase organization, purchase group, and company code. We can define different organizational structure for different document types, but these are the most common. This is the all data that we have in the header, so they apply to all the different lines. We can close it and we can see here the lines. Here you only have one line with one material. We could have different lines asking for different materials, always to the same vendor, of course. In each line we are going to have the material we are asking for, the quantity, the date where we want it, the price, and some additional data. Here we can see a detail of all the data related to this line. If we had more lines, we could select them in this list. So here we have quantities, the delivery time, if we have already, if we need the invoice or not, the account assignment, tests. If we want to print this document, we can add some tests, the delivery address, and so on. So this would be a purchase order. Let's see now production orders. So we can go directly to the production order system, information systems, to the production order information system, just clicking /n COOIS. This is the transaction for the production information system. So from here we are able to select all production orders that have been created for this plan, for the production plan 1000. We see we have the production order number, and then we have the material that we are going to produce, the order type, and some data as MRP controller, production scheduler, the quantity we want to produce, the dates, when we need it, when it's going to start, the status of this production order. Well, a lot of information related to this production order. If we double click, we are going to go to this production order, to this object, where we can see this information plus more information needed for the production order. We see here the quantity that we want to produce, the dates, and then we have different tabs with different information, and even we can see the bill of materials that we are going to use, and also with the different materials, with the different components, and also the routing that we are going to use, that are going to be the different operations, all of these operations. This is the test describing the operations, and the work center where they are going to be performed. So this is another transactional data, the most important in the production module. And the last one we are going to see are the customer orders, sales orders. If we again enter /n, or we can enter /o, and then the name of the transaction. This is the transaction for entering to display a sales order. The difference, you see that now we have created a new session order, but it is still open the one we had before. So sometimes we need to check some information between two different sessions, so we can use this. Let's now enter directly one sales order. We could also select it from a list of them, just clicking here in the match code or here. And this is going to be a sales order. The customer is going to send us it either by in paper or either electronically, but we will have to enter it in SAP or to transform it when we get it electronically for being able to use it in SAP. So this is going to allow us to generate a requirement for for these materials. These are the materials that are being asked for, and we are going to be able to manage the packaging, the picking, the packaging, and the shipment. Here we see this is the order number, the sales order number. This is the customer where we are selling this customer, this sales order. In some cases, even to the same customer, we can have different addresses, so we could enter a different address. This is how these customers names this customer order. For them is going to be a purchase order. So this is the purchase order number of the customer. Here we see some header data. There are a lot of fields in the sales order with different information. And we also see here we have different lines with the material that is being asked, with the quantity, the unit of measure, the description, the date when the customer is requiring it, and so on, with different price and different data that is needed to define this requirement from our customer.